Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Tanzu Community Edition community meeting. Today's date is June 15th, 2022. I'll be your Nancy today. Nancy's out buying a new house or moving into it, so excited for her. If you're watching this from home, we encourage you to join us live. We have two options to choose from. First one is our bi-weekly community meeting, which is this one, held every first and third Wednesday of the month. And then there's a monthly meeting that is every second Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. India Standard Time. These meetings are your chance to hear what the maintainers are working on, ask questions, give feedback, and meet other people in the community. If you aren't able to attend live, you can also find us on the Kubernetes Slack. We're in the Tanzu Community Edition channel, and we hope you can join us in a future meeting. Those attending this meeting, we abide by our code of conduct that is published in our GitHub site in the code of conduct document. Basically, be nice, be good, and if you have anything you would like to discuss in this meeting, feel free to edit the HackMD. In case you do not have that, I will find my chat window and post a link there. Feel free to add things under the discussion topics section. Let's see. Oh, and one other just administrative thing, not required, but if you would be willing, we'd love to, if you would add yourself to the attendee list with your company. If you don't feel comfortable, just your name is great, but just helps us see who's here, who attended, and get an idea of who's interested. So with that, I'll move on to the announcements. I kind of glossed over earlier, but the one big thing that hopefully everyone has heard by now is that our meetings have moved to every first and third Wednesday of the month. We just found that, at least at this point in the project, we just don't have as much happening that the weekly meetings that we had just didn't have enough content to really share. So at least for the time being, twice a month. If things pick up and there's other reasons, so we can always change that in the future. Content-wise, it's been a few weeks, but I think this is probably the first one since folks were at KubeCon. I know a few of you got to meet each other in person. I believe the recordings are up from the sessions there. There were a few of our community members that were presenting, so check those out. There is also a new blog post. Cora has written up the Build Modern Software Supply Chains with Cartographer blog post. Some interesting reading there, so I definitely recommend checking that out. It's not a very long read. It's got some interesting things. And that is it for announcements. So with that, I'll go on to updates and hand things over to V to talk about our roadmap and product management.
Hi, wow, this is really dark. So I just wanted a very brief update. So we were planning before the break for KubeCon, et cetera, to do a different roadmap planning style with more community involvement, et cetera. I guess the news is that given the scenario that we're in right now, I'm sure everybody here knows about the acquisition and so on. We're basically stepping on the brakes and just taking things a lot slower because we are not sure about a lot of the stuff that might happen or not. Our internal development process is going basically in a 2 weeks cadence. So, okay, let's work on this and then let's work on that. And then the other thing, we're not making long-term future plans right now, just because we don't know what might happen in this initial period of a bit of uncertainty. We are also not planning, we're not going to set dates for the next release. We're kind of playing by ear right now. So I just wanted everyone to know that currently, a lot of the stuff is to be seen, which direction it's going to go. And yeah, so just wanted everybody to know that this is how we're looking at things now, and hopefully there's some clarity, some more clarity about like everything coming soon, and then we can reestablish the usual processes. That's it.
Thanks, V. Since that's kind of interesting, before I move on, anybody have any questions? I don't know if we have a lot of answers, but don't want to rush past that. Okay, good. With that, then we'll move on to the engineering updates. Pepe or Jorge, could either one of you talk about the QGAPS PR that merged?
Well, let me start, Jorge. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, first thing is last week we have this PR we launched well before the break for KubeCon. So QBAPS is and nowadays an add-on for TCE, so it is included into the repo. So for those newbies in QBAPS, well, it is a user interface, so you can manage your applications in different packaging formats, supporting Helm packages, Carvel packages, Helm charts managed by flags, and all of them, well, for a multi-cluster configuration within the same dashboard. So it is really great, really interesting. We're super excited to onboard into Tanzu Community Edition. And I think we also add some capabilities to Tanzu Community Edition. As you know, you can add the ability to manage Carvel packages, as I have mentioned, but also Helm packages that some of our community users are really used to work with Helm charts. So the adoption of Carvel packages from their side by using the same tool could be really interesting for all of them, for people, especially new with Carvel, with Tanzu Community Edition, so they can move from their usual Helm charts to this. So that is, and another really interesting thing is we can configure in QBAPS the Bitnami application catalog with hundreds of open source software applications to be available for Tanzu Community Edition users.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like that really does bring a lot of cool capability into TCE.
Can I maybe add a couple of comments to what Pepe said? I'm really excited to see QApps coming into TCE, because QApps will bring a lot of usability enhancements especially for developers and people that needs to have things running on top of a cluster. One thing that we should probably make clear is that this is the first iteration of the QApps extend or add-on or package, and obviously there might be some caveats, and in the coming weeks we will, the QApps team, I will be contributing with them. We will be probably documenting all the steps to get QApps working, because at the end of the day, QApps is an application that runs on top of your Kubernetes cluster, and there is a lot of different configuration options, whether you want to integrate the single sign-on for your user to log into the cluster, to log into the application, and a lot of stuff. So we will be trying to document this properly, so people have the nicest experience on top of TCE with QApps.
Is there a plan to release a new package repository version that will have this within it for TCE, out of band of a TCE release, possibly?
Yeah, we are currently looking at releasing a dot release atop the existing 12 that will include the Cube apps, and then we'll be sure to communicate that in the Slack channel when we do.
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions before we move on? Cool. Thanks, Pepe and Jorge. The other update we have, well, let me just switch over here. Another thing that happened during KubeCon is we released an update to the Docker desktop extension for Tanzu Community Edition. So if you haven't seen that yet, this is Windows and Mac integration in Docker Desktop, where in the newer versions of Docker Desktop, there's the capability to add extensions that brings in capabilities or nice workflows, things like that from others in the community. So there is a extension marketplace that has a few things out there, and I believe that's growing. But one of the things that initially shipped with was our integration for Tanzu Community Edition. So with this, within Docker Desktop, really with a click of a button, you can have an unmanaged cluster created. So I think we've talked about this in a past meeting. I can't really remember now because it's been a little while. But in case you haven't seen it, this is what it is. But the initial version that we had shipped out had some extra output in the logging. Really just, the original implementation that we did for unmanaged clusters assumed that it was something that you were running locally, directly on your desktop. And with the way Docker Desktop works, there's actually a virtual machine that runs in the background, and that's where the Docker engine runs. They do some interesting things to make that look like a really local native experience. But part of the side effect of that was that some of the paths that we were printing out in the output of creating an unmanaged cluster actually weren't relevant or were possibly misleading, because they referred to paths that you wouldn't find locally on your machine because they were actually paths inside this virtual machine. So not really a super exciting update if you were already aware of Docker Desktop extension, but just to point out that this output now, we were able to spend a little more time on our on how we were doing things with unmanaged clusters. With this integration, we were able to clean up some of those references to paths that were not relevant. So it's just a little cleaner now, and functionality wise, it's pretty much the same. And there's just not going to be output in this in the cluster creation logs that might lead you looking for something that you're not going to find. So that's really it. Big update. So anybody have any questions on that? All right, let me switch back over to the agenda then. No, not that one. And there we go. That is it for our updates. It doesn't look like anyone's added any discussion topics, but if anybody has anything they'd like to talk about, any questions, any problems you're running into, anything that we can talk about as a community, feel free to speak up. We've got plenty of time.
I got a question. Since I've been looking into the repository, and there seems to be a lot of pull requests and issues related to the new plugin, the UI plugin. Is there any update that we can get on that?
Yeah, still kind of grinding away on development there, and doing some integration testing with a lot of the management cluster create workflows, working through a few bugs. It's coming along nicely, but that doesn't really probably mean much without a visual. So maybe next community meeting we can give a little demo on current progress, if that'd be helpful.
Is it Justin? Just a question. Is it something simple to test locally? Like, can I just get the pull request that your guys working on, just build it locally, and will it work?
Yeah, you could. There should be a makefile target to build and install the TCE CLI plugins, I can definitely sync with you offline and get you pointed in the right direction.
If anyone is interested, there's a development branch that we've been using called TCE-UI-POC. So if you were interested, wanted to check it out, feel free. It's out there publicly on our GitHub repo, and it's all under the CLI command plugin UI directory. So the makefile that Justin referred to is there. There's, I think we have at least a little information in the README about it. So feel free to check it out. And Justin, you think we'd be in a good spot to do a little demo, or at least some view updates of the mockups next meeting?
I do, yeah, absolutely. We could definitely do a demo walkthrough. Hopefully by next meeting we would also have like some of the end-to-end integration of management cluster create workflows kind of fleshed out. So
awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the Docker desktop extension. I'm wondering if there are any plans for like additional features or other parts that to be worked on for that extension.
Yeah, we do have some things out there, not extensively so far, but if you look in, at least the ones I tried to prepend with DDE, there are a few issues where we're tracking things that we know we want to do with the extension. There is also our project tracking board for V013. Not to say that these actually will all be in V013, but just for the time being at least, there is a section in here for Docker Desktop extension where we've put all of those issues of things that we would like to do. If there is anything not listed here that you think would be good for the Docker Desktop extension, then please do feel free to file a feature enhancement. If you go under a new issue, there is a feature request. So anything missing that you think would be really cool to do, just write up something in here just saying your idea, and we can try to get that on there.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey friends, I had a kind of a technical, but also like project speed question about how when we have unmanaged cluster, the control plane components are running the upstream images. So like the API server, kube controller manager, etc. are like using the images from Kate's GCR IO instead of like the VMware TCE ones, or sorry, TKG ones. I know part of this is sort of intertwined in the TKG images lack of support for multi-arch. I was kind of curious, like, if this is sort of a situation that we think will stay, that's intended to stay the same. Like, are we just going to ask Minikube users and kind users to like continue using upstream Kubernetes components, but then run like community edition, like package management and other features on top? Or are we wanting people using the Tanzu CLI, at least like where possible, to be using TKG Kubernetes components and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'll let you take that, Josh.
Yeah, it's a great question. Our long-term intent is the latter, due to a variety of constraints in building, such as our inability to produce ARM-based images. You can think of this as a shortcut to getting things working. However, we're 100% desiring a future state where all the core cube components and otherwise are coming from the same binaries we use in things like managed clusters and so on. Once we can build those things at a technical level, all we've got to do as a team is produce our own kind image, which we've done in the past. Things like Minikube images and stuff, we haven't actually explored what involves the creation of those, since Minikube has multiple providers. It sounds like it could be n number of images that need to be produced. So perhaps some providers, we won't be able to make this guarantee, but backing up 100%, our desire is to get to a consistent image, or image, I guess you could say. And we'll probably target that consistency on kind since it's used so widely, and then best effort all the other providers.
The reason that I'm asking this question and how I stumbled upon this was I was looking at adding a distro to Loft's vCluster CLI, which currently can deploy K3s, vanilla Kubernetes, and EKS anywhere. And so all vCluster really needs to do, right, is deploy storage, some of the Kubernetes components and their syncer binary via like a Helm chart into a namespace of a Kubernetes cluster. And they've got support as well for installing things inside of the virtual cluster afterwards, which is like how you could do things like install cap controller and the package repository. And this starts to get into like the kind of further project spirit stuff, is like, what would the maintenance story be like, and do we even want other projects, deploying TCE, or do we only want that kind of stuff to come from, say, like the unmanaged cluster plugin from the Tanzu CLI? I know that there's like ongoing kind of like work here as we kind of expand this use case, but
V and I can probably give some insight here. I'll start, and if he wants to add anything in. As just to back up something V said early on, the direction of the project and what we prioritize is a bit in flux right now. But speaking to where we were, and I think probably where we'll end up heading is, yes, we do have interest in deploying a base Tanzu system atop any Kubernetes, ideally. I think, if I'm understanding like the situation you're in, Lee, and please tell me if I'm wrong here, what we need is a more robust way to do like the Tanzu initialization atop a Kubernetes API server, cap controller, package repositories, perhaps like app toolkit, all the things that we might want to install. The way that folks can do this today is in a non-open source project or product called Cluster Essentials. You can Google for that. We have started some design doc work internally, I guess. So anyways, we started it internally. I would imagine it would end up external around how we could make that more robust and how you could do the equivalent of like a Tanzu init-esque approach to bringing base Tanzu and all the required components atop any Kubernetes. Let me maybe pause there. I know you said something about like creating a different base image, if I heard you correctly. So I'm not sure if this quite tracks with what you're after.
It is getting to the heart of kind of what I'm wondering about. And I'm happy to also kind of have like a smaller conversation, maybe like including you and V about this, because it is like a very kind of like community project health kind of question as to like, do we have like a machine readable place, right, where like the versions of like our components that like we do have a place for this, right? But like, what is the right place, and how do we like that to be consumed? And like, do we want other people like say implementing a Cluster Essentials type thing inside of their product, right? Like if the vCluster CLI wants to deploy Tanzu Community Edition vClusters.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what is the right way for that to happen? Right. Like, they have that, they have that desire. They asked us for that. I went in and looked into if it would be technically possible. I found some weird constraints and shortcuts that we're taking, but overall it is technically possible, and the implementation is not hard. So it's like, do we want to do it this way? Do we want to do it another way? That kind of thing. And yeah, but there isn't necessarily like a need to build other images. Like, we could just be like deploying vanilla Kubernetes and then like modifying or adding extra options, you know, to deploy the other cluster essential type things, such as cat controller and the repos.
Right.
And like, we would easily be able to like add something like that to, I shouldn't say easily, but we would be able to add something like that, you know, to the unmanaged cluster plugin, right? Like with a flag or a different subcommand, or even just an entire vCluster plugin, you know, in the Tanzu CLI. But that doesn't serve like the sort of, like, you're not tapping into another community's users, you know. Like you need the Tanzu CLI in order to discover that. Whereas with the vCluster CLI, there is a user base there, and they can say, you know, like, oh, okay, well, I see this list of 4 things I can install. One of them is a Tanzu thing. Maybe it says Tanzu, maybe it says TCE, maybe it says something else. Carvel, you know.
Right.
But
yeah, so I think, yeah, and I, to your point, Lee, about you, V, and I getting together, would be happy to like dive a little bit deeper into this in like a more focused session. But I just will say, yes, it is something that we were looking at. I think largely the first piece is defining what our base Tanzu system looks like. Then, like you said, having some machine readable descriptor of the componentry, and then figuring out a consistent way that community projects, perhaps even products, could slurp it up, and then our own libraries and tooling slurp it up to essentially inject Tanzu atop our own TKG or Kubernetes. So yeah, I think it's definitely, in lieu of all the news and chaos going on, it's definitely of interest. And if it's something like you're in the heat of right now, V and I could talk to you, Slack, Zoom, whatever you want to set up, and chat a bit more about what this would look like, and give you some realistic ideas of if it's something we'd actually work on, or if it's something we'd need folks who are psyched about it, that have more bandwidth to pick up, you know. So
yeah, maybe I can ping you in the Kubernetes
that'd be great
Slack channel, so that as well, if we have any other community members who want to drop in on opinion, then we can all chat.
Yep, sounds good.
Great. Any other topics? Okay. Well, if that is it, then we can wrap things up. Thank you all for joining today's community meeting. If you're watching from home, we'd love for you to be able to join us live. Until next time, take care.
Thanks, Sarah.